Hello from Race Control in Alicante for this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. We are on leg 9, and we were wanting to give you a little bit of a treat today. We're hoping to connect to live AkzoNobel, and we can. There was a little bit of a question mark just in the final countdown as to whether the connection would hold, but it is, and what we are seeing right now, live images of Team AkzoNobel out on the water in leg 9, and currently sailing very nicely in first place. Conrad Coleman is with me in the studio, and Conrad, we've seen so much different weather over the last few days, but right now, a little bit of wet, a little bit of overcast, but some good breeze.
Well, yeah, wet and overcast. They're sailing past Ireland, so this is sort of pretty standard, isn't it? But the boat that you cannot see in shot is sort of just beside them is Team Brunel. 2.1 miles separate this boat in the lead from their Dutch compatriots that are hot on their heels. And it's just amazing to see how close they are.
Now, we are hoping that we might get a chance to speak to skipper Simeon Team Point. We just saw him there putting on the headset. You might have, if you're very quick on the keyboard, a little bit of a chance to send in some question. Simeon is standing by for questions, so we're going to hear him in just a moment. But this is where the fleet are right now. As you can see, we're into the final stages of leg 9. Team AkzoNobel right now out in first place with Team Brunel, as Conrad was saying just a moment ago, very much hot on their heels. There is hardly anything between those two. We've sailed our way over that high pressure ridge, and we're getting ourselves into that final little push, and we can potentially now go back to those live images, and there we can see Simeon Team Point just tucked underneath the hatch. Simeon, if you can hear me, it's Niall in Volvo Ocean Race headquarters. Am I coming through okay?
Hi, Niall. Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. First of all, you're looking pretty good out there. The breeze is quite nice. What was that transition to this new wind like?
Yesterday we had the biggest transition with absolutely no wind, and I think once we were going through, we had a nice little extension to Brunel through the night, but then this morning, early hours, the wind dropped again, and we sort of sailed into the light, and Brunel caught right up with us again, and so yeah, it's tight racing at the moment, which will be very tight, as we say in Holland, and but it will be great racing till Cardiff, and hopefully we got enough lead on the rest of the fleet to hopefully keep going steady.
I'm sure a bit of a relief for you to be out in front after the tricky transition in the breeze, and with that unbelievable run that you guys had, the 24-hour record just kept ticking up. I wonder how much energy have you guys got for the final push?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, everyone is still pretty accelerated. I mean, we can't believe that we actually managed to get over 600 miles with a 65-foot race boat. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. But now the focus now is, to bring her home as fast as possible. And we don't want to give up that lead, of course.
And we've just lost connection with Simeon Team Point, but we're going to try and re-establish that. We're going to try and have a little bit of a look and still talk to them. You've been sending in a couple of questions, and one or two of them pretty good. There's a question here about the tide at the finish, so we do want to try and pass that one on. But we are stretching the technology at the moment. I wonder whether it's possible now to go back to the live images and just have a little bit of a look at where everybody is in the fleet. Because, Conrad, one thing that's been going on at the moment is this race between first and second. Let's just take a look at how it's developed over the last sort of 12 hours or so between Team AkzoNobel, currently in the lead, Team Brunel in second place, going into this high-pressure ridge. It was a little bit of a question mark as to exactly what was going to happen. The whole fleet, I mean, they did squeeze up. We have seen some interesting stuff, but focusing on that front two, they emerged pretty strong by my eye and very much together. At times, the separation between the two, 8 nautical miles, maybe 7 nautical miles. Right now, it's down to around about 2 nautical miles between Team AkzoNobel and Team Brunel. I know we're going to talk a little bit about the points later, but very, very happy for Team AkzoNobel to be out in the lead at the moment. And I think we can get Simeon Team Point back on the line. Simeon, Oh, this is what happens when you try and do a live X in the middle of a live broadcast. We might not be able to do this anymore. But Conrad, the question I wanted to ask is, we're seeing this battle is incredibly small on the miles, but this has got an unbelievable effect on the scores.
Yeah, it absolutely does. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but just remember that this is a double points leg with an extra bonus point for the winner. So that means that between first and second place, there's not 1 point, there are 3 points on offer here. So these 2.1 miles that currently separate these two boats are absolutely crucial for both boats.
Well, both boats, they are going to be keeping their eyes firmly glued on each other. But of course, Mapfre, Dongfeng, they want to be able to hold on to the top spot or retake the top spot. It's looking unbelievably close out there on the water. Turn the tide on plastic. You know, they're looking for something in this last few hours. It's looking unbelievably tight at the moment. But I think we do actually have Simeon Team Point back on the line. Simeon, thank you very much for sort of staying on with us patiently. I've got a question here, and it's such a good one. I want to put it to you. Aswin Baumeister asks, Simeon, what is your plan with the tide at the finish? And we've had an incredibly tight finish in Newport. I'm sure you guys have got a plan for Cardiff. Working on the tide, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I hear you again. You can hear me?
Simeon, we've got you here. I was just wondering what you were thinking.
Though, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're not there yet. We still got a pretty tricky transition in the Celtic Sea before we go into the Bristol Channel. But then, of course, in the Bristol Channel, the tide will play a big part. But at the moment, we froze. At the moment, we think we will have enough wind to actually get to the finish there in good shape. But if not, then we have our anchor ready, just like in Newport. And really hug the coast there, and have to see. We have some local knowledge with Jules on board, so see where the reliefs are, and if we can't find one, then of course we have to anchor.
Well, maybe we'll see the anchor coming out. I mean, we did all the way back at the beginning of the race, I think, for the finish in Lisbon. Another question here coming in from Franz Lichnauer about the life on board. Does anybody, after everything that we've seen over those last 24 hours with the big runs, does anybody on your boat have any dry clothes left?
Can you repeat one more time?
I'm just wondering if anybody on your boat has any dry clothes left.
What is he saying?
Does anyone on the boat have any dry clothes left?
Does anyone on the boat having dry clothes left? I don't know if you can still hear me, but well, it's pretty humid and foggy right now, so we packed pretty minimal. So I think everyone is pretty damp, especially after that 600 miler. So it's been pretty wet all along. So our sleeves, everything is still a bit humid. And go.
I think we might be losing Simeon Team Point there. Simeon, if you can still hear me, well, we'll let you get back to the battle that you've got with Team Brunel. We'll let you keep pushing. And you just heard the voice there of Conrad Frost, our onboard reporter down below, passing the questions up. We might get a chance to pass on some questions to the boat in the next few days. So if you've got any questions for Team AkzoNobel, send them in. But this is how close that battle is between Team AkzoNobel and Team Brunel. Right now, it is just 2.2 nautical miles between the two Dutch boats. Carl Langford, onboard Team Brunel, got in touch with us earlier to talk about how close the racing was and that unbelievable single-handed drone catch.
The last 2 days have been pretty chilled out. Plenty of sleep, good to catch up on some rest. Yeah, it was a pretty cool. Sam had the drone up in about 35 knots, and I was on the helm at the time, and I told him, I said, mate, we'll slow down a little bit, let you come in to land it. And as we did that, he kind of misinterpreted that I wanted to catch it. So he flew it to me on the helm, and it was in front of me, so I just stuck my hand out and grabbed it. And, yeah, maybe that was a mistake. Axo got the 24-hour record over us, and maybe we should have been pushing a little bit harder. But yeah, but since the weather's dropped off, everybody's had a chance to catch up on some sleep and kind of re-energize for the final push to the finish and kind of tricky conditions that are coming up.
Just how tight is the racing where you are?
The last few hours have been actually really good for us. We've gained probably 3 miles in the last 4 hours, so it's been good for us. Momentum's on our side, and up until that point, AXO kind of stretched away through the ridge, and so it was a little bit of a setback for us. But now we're slowly clawing our way back, which is a nice feeling aboard, and the mood's good. And
Well, it sounds like a good thing too, because this final push, you're going to need to keep your eyes very much open for changes in the weather.
yeah, absolutely. I think the team that can kind of change sails at the right time and also maneuver at the right time with the shifts that are going to come up, then I think that's going to make the final difference. And we're feeling good at the moment, and we've got a bit of a speed edge at the moment. We have done for the last few hours, so hopefully we can maintain that and close up with those guys.
And still only 2.2 nautical miles behind each other. It is unbelievably close at the front. But let's take a look at the live positions and make our way back through the rest of the fleet. Team Axonabel in first at the moment on the water. Team Brunel in second place. Both those two boats moving well now. And Conrad, it's been this transition that we saw over the last 24 hours, the high pressure ridge. All the fleet were really sort of hoping, if they were at the front, that it wasn't going to be too bad. If you were at the back, you were really hoping for the big compression. And Xavi Fernandez, the skipper on board Mapfre, he was certainly crossing his fingers for a big compression.
Well, we're about 600 miles to go to the finish in Cardiff, and we just go into the very light winds area and just crossing the ridge. And it's been quite a big compression, and we've seen Dongfeng like an hour ago, and now they stretch again. We don't see them anymore, and we have Vestas right here to windward about 5 to 6 miles. So, hoping to catch them up, and hopefully we don't lose them again if they're gonna get earlier to the pressure, so they're gonna stretch. But hopefully we can get early enough and don't lose too much. There's still a lot to go, and hopefully we can fix this leg a little bit. But for sure, nothing is gonna be decided in Cardiff as we're expecting, and it's going to be a big fight all the way to the Hague, and that's what we have to do. Still keep alive and keep pushing all the way to the finish.
Well, Conrad, a couple of things stand out there. One, obviously a little bit of a compression when the light winds did hit, because we started to see the boats from each other, but also Mapfre start talking about Dongfeng race team as their main rival, as if Vestas 11th Hour Racing aren't the boat in front of them.
Yeah, it's astonishing because actually Vestas 11th Hour Racing, they're not a threat in the overall, but they are going to be challenging Mapfre right now because Charlie Enright and his crew on board Vestas 11th Hour Racing are going to be in the good books of Charles Caudrelier on board Dongfeng race team, because that boat sitting in between those two top rivals could well be the difference between Dongfeng remaining in second place and potentially retaking the overall at the end of the day. However, plenty going on board this boat, particularly in the light conditions, because we've got this shot here of Kevin Escoffier in the bilges, looking underneath the boat with that endoscope. It's not a stethoscope. And that was going on because they felt that the boat was slower than normal in the light conditions. So they observed something stuck on board the boat underneath the waterline, and so he put on his, superhero costume. I don't know what you would call that one. The French fish, and dived underneath the boat. They had to come to a halt in order to do that safely. And let's see what he found.
Huge one. It was seagrass, thick like that. Not too cold? It's okay,
So, big bit of seaweed there, that was slowing them down. Even in these light conditions, the smallest thing can make a difference. And so, clearly Dongfeng is super, super motivated to do everything that they possibly can to make sure that those other boats stay behind them. Well,
Dongfeng race team then in third now that they've emerged from that light wind transition, as you say, caring very deeply about those tiny little bits of boat speed that they could find. Turn the tide on plastic. I mean, they were hoping for something rather large, shall we say, in the terms of a compression. But some of the images that we saw coming off the boat, I mean, it's been light. That's got to be frustrating when you talk about the speeds that we have seen. However, a chance to recuperate, a chance to dry everything out.
Yeah, light, but completely essential. After the thrashing that they got in that sort of prefrontal section when they're all going 500, 600 miles in 24 hours, takes a toll on the machine and on the body. And so this is really an occasion to dry your socks, dry your gloves, and and get some food in, most crucially. So rest a little bit and get ready for the final sprint into Cardiff.
So in this light wind, high pressure ridge, the difficult breeze that we saw the fleet squeeze up a little bit of a chance to dry things out, a little bit of a chance to go over the side as the boats were going safely enough. But did it help those back markers? I mean, this was Libby Greenhouse, the navigator on Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, clearly hoping that it was going to turn the race almost inside out.
Well, we're just sailing into some light winds, so probably going to peel imminently to the Mo. And then a bit of a transition where hopefully the fleet compresses. And we come out the other side looking a little bit better than we're looking now. I think the front two guys have got a good lead. They've got a 50-mile lead going into this. The rest of them, they're all within touch, which is good. I don't know, it's almost the same old with us after the first 2 days. Something happens and we just seem to drop off the back of the fleet, and it becomes quite hard to find a way back in.
So that was what Libby Greenhouse and the crew on Sun Hun Kai Scallywag were hoping for. But yesterday, was there a compression? When the high ridge pressure system hit and they sailed into it, what did it do?
Well, there was a compression, but it didn't turn out to be working in their favour. Let's have a look at what happened on the lead up and then whether it worked out for them. Let's have a look at the images there. We've got a gap of 117 miles on the way into the ridge. So 143 miles on the water, and taking into account the north-south split. But then as they pile in and the brakes go on at the front, well, Libby gets what she wanted. That 117 miles gets reduced to 55. Fantastic, happy days. However, on the exit, it does not go in their favor. That ridge moves a little bit further to the east with them, trapping them in the light conditions. And as I look over my shoulder right now, then they have got only 9.3 knots of wind. The boat just in front of them, 16.8. So they're still being hammered by these lighter conditions, and that is stretching out. If we look towards the future, well, it's not going to get better for them at all, because we can see the boats heading in towards Land's End, tacking off, and then tacking again in the middle of the Celtic Sea. A lot's going on with different systems trying to gain the dominance over the wind field. But as they go in towards Cardiff, you can see that there's this little bubble of light winds and another high pressure zone underneath Ireland that looks like it might be trapping Sun Hun Kai again. So it's going to be a painful few miles for them at the back.
And a painful few miles as well for the two front boats as well, because as we were saying, it's only just over 2 nautical miles, the distance between first and second, and there is so much at stake. It's a double points leg. You get the bonus point if you win it. And let's take a look at the scores. If all the boats finish in their current positions, this is what the overall leaderboard would look like. Dongfeng race team would now be our new overall race leader, but only by a single solitary point. The Spanish boat, Mapfre, they would move down into second. Team Brunel would be in third, but Team Axonabel, if they continue to hold on and they do take the win and the bonus point, they start looking like they're going to threaten Bauer-Becking.
That's right. The Dutch battle, the match race on clogs in between the middle of the fleet right now is so tight, and it's crucially important to keep the hopes alive for Team Axonabel that they remain in front. Because if they lose that 2-mile buffer towards Team Brunel, well, we would see that an entirely different picture. We would see Team Brunel overtaking Mapfre, threatening Dongfeng race team for the top spot. And so 2 miles could absolutely change the entire history of the entire story of the race as it stands right now.
Well, we knew that this leg was going to be important. We knew that any double points leg was going to be crucial, but it really is shaping down to be, just as you say, those last 2 miles between Team Axonabel and Team Brunel. And well, it's a little bit of a tricky link here, because we now want to go on about the hard realities of being out there on sea sailing, but essentially there's no kind way to do it. Life on board isn't just about battling your competitors and the wind and the wave. It's also about those everyday, daily tasks.
I'm going to write about how challenging it is to try and have a on the toilet when the boat's doing 30 knots at 35 degrees of heel. The leeward wall of the cubicle's broken off for longitudinal. You've got some crazy guy steering, throwing the boat all around. You think that's hard? Wait till you have to stand up and wipe your ass. Then it's really difficult.
Trouble with everyday tasks with Stu Bannatyne onboard Dongfeng race team. Team Brunel also suffering the same fate. Their onboard reporter breaking the toilet, but at least he had the good sense to wake everybody up, break the bad news to them, but with a freshly cooked pancake.
It's going to be gone pretty quick. That's the only thing that I'm sad about.
Anyway.
Well, it almost makes up for breaking the toilet, Sam. Almost. Yeah, it's great.
Oh.
It's the best meal we've had on the boat. The only bad thing is that we don't have a toilet to, you know.
The harsh realities of life at sea for Dongfeng race team and Team Brunel. Tomorrow we're going to have a quick fix in the morning, 1300 UTC. We've got another daily live, and we are getting very close to the arrivals, the finish of this double points leg in leg 9. At the moment, it is just 2 miles, the distance between first and second, and this could completely shake up the overall leaderboard. Keep your eyes glued to our social media channels. If you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to our Race Experts Twitter feed. They will follow you into the finish line mile by mile. And Conrad, I mean, well, the last question really that we've got here is, when is it going to be Team Axonabel or Team Brunel or any of the other teams? When is the first boat going to cross that finish line in Cardiff?
Well, the forecast at the moment, with all of the vagaries of the wind to be taken into account, is around 0200 or 0300 on Tuesday morning. As per usual, a transatlantic leg or any ocean leg is going to finish in the middle of the night. That's just the rules. But for Team Brunel, not much longer to cross your legs. You're almost home.
Well, very, very, very close out there on the water. We're going to keep an eye on it. We will see you tomorrow. Who will be leading then? Well, we'll have to wait and see.